Why is it that people are so attracted to this idea of being spiritual but not religious, or New Age? And how do we as Christians reach them and communicate to them to help them see the need that they have for Christ? Well, this was a conversation that came up when I had the incredible opportunity to meet with Adrienne Johnson. She was a former New Ager as well, and she shares kind of what this journey was like. So I think you'll get a lot out of this. I also recognize that Christmas is just around the corner, so Merry Christmas, everyone, and check out this video.
I did have some really interesting conversations. Like, I remember this one conversation with this New Age girl. Man, she had the number of like shamans and like retreats and incense and crystals and like all of the things, right? And yet she was unhappy. Like, that was the other thing too. Like, what's crazy is that I'll go back to what I talked to her about, but I'll just say really quickly, when I was an atheist, I looked at the New Age people, and they had a sense of like contentment and peace. You know, they were kind of blissed out and I was like, that looks really nice. I want that, right? I want what they have. I'm going to do what they tell me to do. I'm going to do what they do so I can have that. So then I join them and I become one of those people, basically. But it's not, like, it gets you maybe 80, 90% of the way there. So it gives you the illusion of being content and at peace, but there's this like critical 10% that's always missing. You never actually get it, right? You never actually get the answer. I didn't want to be a spiritual seeker. I wanted to be a spiritual finder. I wanted the truth. I wanted it, right? And so then I started looking at these Christian people as I started to get like introduced to them. And I was like, they look really happy and like have the kind of lives that I want. All of these New Agey people are like not married, don't have children. These Christian people have like healthy marriages and families and have almost like a different kind of peace about them than these New Agey people. So now, instead of wanting to emulate the New Agey people, I kind of want to learn more about these Christian people. So that was part of it. So the conversation I had with this New Agey woman when I started to become a Christian, one of the things I had a really hard time with, one of the epiphanies I had in becoming a Christian, was like, as an atheist, there was no God. As an agnostic, there was a universal life force that connected all things. It was not intelligent. That was like, no. That was way too uncomfortable for me to get on board with that kind of idea. It had to be some kind of unintelligent life force. But then somehow it like clicked that I was like, wait, I believe in a power that is greater than myself. I can think. I use logic. I feel. I understand things. Like, how could a power that is greater than me be less than me when it comes to all of those things, to my capacity, my intellect, my feeling, my emotion, my understanding? If I really believe the power is greater than me, then it must be greater than me in those ways too. And all of a sudden, an intelligent God was like not only acceptable, it was like, that has to be the case. God has to be more intelligent than me because God is more powerful than me and I'm intelligent. And I remember saying this to her, and she was just, she just kind of like, just kind of like nod and smile, like, not sure how I feel about that, and just kind of dropped the conversation. Because I think that a lot of the New Age stuff, it sounds really good. It sounds really inclusive. It sounds very like all is accepted, all is one, all is connected. But then when you start to press, it falls apart. And so they don't press because they don't really want to question it. They just want to accept it because it sounds nice and it feels nice. And I think that's just the case with the New Age. I think it all kind of falls apart when you start to question it. And that's why you can't really question it.
Yeah, I definitely feel the draw to that. I would imagine probably most New Agers and myself also sharing this is I hate conflict. I don't mind
Hmm.
standing for truth. In fact, I long to do that, without every cell of my body. Like I want truth. I don't even mind like verbal spars, so to speak, like going back and forth and like thinking through things, but with that almost inevitably comes conflict, and that is something that I just don't naturally like. And so to hear of a system where everybody can be right, your truth and my truth, and you find your own way, and we're all cool with that. I mean, that's very appealing to me. But intellectually, I just
Yes.
cannot, in clear conscience, accept something that doesn't ring true.
I've even questioned, like, is God possibly big enough in some way that my little mind can't comprehend, that he can actually accept all ways? Like, is that possible? Like, I have really tried to intellectually think through things and question myself and like question my beliefs. And maybe these people are right, you know? I mean, I'm not God. God is way bigger than me. Maybe God really can accept all of these things. But when I look at it, it's like, but if he accepts all things, then that means he wouldn't accept my way, which says that there is an objective truth that says some way, like, how can you accept objective truth that says some ways are wrong and then also accept subjective truth because one contradicts the other? How can a God who created order and the fact that, you know, the sun rises every single day and time and all of these, you know, God is not a God of chaos. God is a God of order, a God that makes sense. I make sense. I value, you know, rationality. God created rationality. So how can God accept rationality and irrationality at the same time and hold them with equal weight? That just, it kind of falls apart. I mean, that's the thing about when I said Christianity is the only worldview that like can account for everything. It's like I will question myself and be like, do I actually believe this? This is crazy. This is this is foolishness, right? Um, but then I really quickly go down that path of like, okay, so what's the alternative? The alternative of like nothing created everything, I can't get on board with anymore. Um, and like the new age idea, the problem where new age really started to fall apart for me too, where was the idea of like, one, it's all up to your own effort. It's all up to how much you meditate and you do all of these things. Like that's how you connect to God. That's how you connect to the divine. And like my Sufi mentor, she would like go to these silent retreats that cost hundreds of dollars, you know, that cost a lot of money.
Mm.
And then as I became a Christian, I was living in Hollywood in this like really crappy apartment building. And I just had this thought that like, so wait, are you saying that like the little Mexican lady that lives in my apartment building who like speaks Spanish, like she's never going to go to these retreats? So what? So she doesn't get to connect to God and the divine the way that you do in your bougie retreat that costs hundreds of dollars with your shaman. And like, I can't really get on board with a God that like, you know what I mean? Like that. So that's weird that it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other thing that where it falls apart is this idea of it does not account for human suffering. It does not account for like how horrible our world is. It's like, you know, it kind of wants to like push all of that under the rug and just focus on if we were all enlightened and we all, you know, meditated and connected and, you know, heart to heart and like all of it, like then the world would be peace. And I'm like, have you seen humanity forever? Like, we're horrible. Like, we treat each other horribly, always, all over the world, all throughout human history. And I just cannot accept the fact that, like, oh, it's because they're not connecting with their divine being. You know, they're not sitting and meditating enough. And if they did, then the world would be peaceful. And it's like, well, I mean, even if that is somehow true, like that's never going to happen. Like that's not the way humanity is. And so then what? So then we're just doomed to suffer and be disconnected from the divine because we don't do that. Like, so that was another way where New Age just didn't, whereas Christianity, it's like you know, as Tim Keller says, like you are more broken and sinful and depraved and lost more than you could ever imagine, but you are more loved and accepted and cherished and beautiful than you could ever dare dream, right? It's the only worldview that accounts for both, that accounts for all of human experience.